Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's show is part 4 in the fantastic series by the wonderful mind of Jim Lawrence. As ever, please do let us know down below in the comments what you thought. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. And so, without further ado, let's get into tonight's story, entitled The Wolves of October, Part 4. Let's get straight into that. The black SUV pulls up to the DeHue estate. The place is beautiful. In the morning light, the garden's freshly manicured and definitely a showplace. 3 men exit the vehicle, but only one approaches the house. The man, early 50s, dark suit, rings the bell. The man that answers the door is an unassuming man, well built, but greying. "May I assist you, sir?" "Yes," the man in the suit says. "My name is Turner, and I would like to see Mr. DeHue." "The reason for your visit, Mr. Turner?" "Yes, a colleague of mine has gone missing. Near Mr. DeHue's lands. I would like to speak to him about it." "I will see if Mr. DeHue will see you. Please, wait in the sitting room." The man returns in a few minutes. "Please wait here, sir. The master will be down momentarily. May I offer you some refreshments?" "No, thank you," the man says, while marveling at the decorum of the household. A few moments later, a man and a lady appear. "I am Henry DeHue, and this is my administrative assistant, Miss Latulle. Now how may I assist you?" "Mr. Turner, is it?" "Yes, sir, it is. I'm here regarding an associate of mine. The man has been missing over a week now. He was here to explore these forests for a resource we need in an experiment we are conducting," the dark-clad man says. Henri hears a voice in his mind. "Diplomacy, my lord. Well, Mr. Turner, it may help me to know the resource and the experiment. Maybe I could direct you to the area he may have been searching. Surely he wasn't within the boundaries of my estate. But I do know the area very well. I have hunted it extensively. There are many predators. The bayous have gators, venomous snakes, panthers, and wolves to deal with. Even the occasional black bear. The very terrain itself is even treacherous. Black bogs and quicksand. Our man was an accomplished woodsman. Those threats wouldn't have bothered him. As for your property, he may have accidentally crossed onto it. I would like to ask your permission if we could possibly search." "Oh, of course. Gentlemen, consider yourself my guest. Miss Latulle will see to your needs. Now I'm late for a meeting at Baton Rouge with the mayor, so I bid you a good day." Henri leaves and heads to his car, a Bentley. Driving away, he hears Nicole's voice in his head. "Very proper, my lord. But will they find the body?" "No, they will not. The remains have been taken to the bayous. The alligators will have feasted by now. Watch them closely, my dear. Watch them closely." Meanwhile, 2,500 miles to the north. Jim and Lou settle down for the night in Tony's den site. Jim is introduced to Tony's mate and cub. The mate is very leery of a human being this close to her, much less her cub, but the cub warms to Jim and Lou. That night, though, as most of them slept, Lou awakes with a purpose, leaves camp on a dead run to the north. He is more than a wolf, he is the Wahila, the great wolf of the north, and he is on a mission. The next morning, Jim awakes and calls for Lou. There is no response. "Worry not for your brother, Jim Johnson." Dawn, now standing next to him, speaking to him. "Gishmanatu, the Great Spirit, has sent him on a mission. He goes to buy you the time you need to see this pack south." "Will he be okay?" Jim asks. "He will be in danger. He will slow the Great Coda," Dawn says. "Worry not, for he is fast and agile, as well as intelligent. and he also has embodied the spirit of the North. I could handle that bear, Jim says, hoarsely. Yes, you could, Jim Johnson, but you will be busy. You must return to your friends with great haste. An old enemy has arisen, and in a fortnight when the moon is high, he will hunt your friends, and not only steal their lives, but also their souls. Go now, and go fast. I will stay and guide your brothers home. This is the second time in 5 years that Jim and Lou had not been on a mission together, and the first Lou had been injured, and by a bear too. To say Jim was concerned was an understatement, especially if this bear could beat up Tony. It was true, in many, that Lou was superior to Tony, but brute force wasn't one of them. He would have to trust his brother and the spirits of the North. He had to get back to Bosman and deal with what and whoever was threatening his friends. Dawn had told him he had a fortnight. That's 10 days. He could most likely drive straight through in 18 hours. The full moon, that would mean a lesser werewolf. What lesser was an old enemy, though? The only lesser he had encountered in many years was Michelle's pack, but they were all dead, weren't they? He says his goodbyes to Tony, leaving him in Dawn's capable hands to guide them to the United States border and get them across without incident. Jim heads south. He must abandon his friends to save his friend. Life was so much easier when he was just a ranger. With Jim back on the road, he pulls out his phone to try to get in touch with Bill to try to assess the situation. He notices 2 missed calls. One is from Bill, but the other from Henri. He calls Bill first. Bill tells Jim that one of those bikers that was part of Michelle's pack must have survived. I think it was their leader, and he has a new pack. One of them is that man that I talked to, that one that had the logging camp that Tony must have raided, Jim tells him. He wasn't a lesser when we talked to Lou, and I would have smelled it. Bill tells him the other 2 I saw were combat trained, though Peter and Russ made short work of them. I don't think we're in any trouble until full moon. I explained to Peter what you told us down in Baton Rouge on how to kill them, but 4 against us is a little iffy. Jim tells him not to worry. I will be there soon. But if they see me, they will not make a frontal attack, but sneak in. That could put the Martin family at danger. How much do they know? Bill tells them nothing yet. Jim then tells Bill that Lou isn't with him. He's off on a solo mission. Jim tells Bill, get in touch with the Martins. Try to explain to them that trouble may be headed their way. I'm going to go straight to their place. I will meet you there the day after tomorrow, and we will make out our plans. I must call Henri. There may be a situation down south. Jim then calls Henri and receives the information about the attack and the surveillance by the strange men. Henri relates that the man was unlike anything he'd ever seen. His strength was enhanced, but nothing that I couldn't handle, until he injected something into his leg. If it hadn't been for Nicole's intervention, I might not be here. Jim says, Nicole? Yes, cousin. I hired a lady as my administrative assistant. Jim added, You hired a woman? Why, Henri, I am impressed. Yes, cousin. She is exceptional, as well as gifted. Jim continues, I look forward to meeting her. Henri, do you have that syringe that the man injected himself with? I do not think of that, James. After surviving the fight, my mind was elsewhere. Now there are people here looking for the body of their missing man. They will not find it, but they may find that instrument. I will look myself. Jim then asks if Henri remembered anything special about the lesser that oversaw Michelle's pack. Henri states, he was cruel. If I remember correctly, I didn't interact with him much, but one thing, he was stronger than the other lessers. He had the power of speech in his hunting form. I only thought purebloods were capable of that. He was also very strong, and retained at least a portion of his mind. That's really all I can tell you about him. But isn't he dead? Jim says, I don't think so. Somehow he survived, ended up 1,500 miles to the north, and with a new pack to boot, at least 2 of them, tactically trained. Project Rougarou? Jim says. I found papers in the lab we discovered. I wonder if the people Michelle tried to sell to you fished the lesser out of the bayou, sent him after me and another creation to check you out. Hold tight, cousin. I may have several loose ends to tie up here. I must handle this lesser and seat Tony safely into Yellowstone, and then retrieve Lou. I should be there in a couple of weeks tops. Find out what you can, and when we get there, we will put a stop to this project, Rougarou. Try to retrieve that syringe if you can, but don't put yourself out or in harm's way. We handle this together. Jim and Henri say their goodbyes, as the writer once penned, the game's afoot. Henri must know what's going on though. Those men were still looking for clues in the area. The Dehue estate is large in its borders, up against Backwater Bayou, and even has its own private lake. Henri assumes his wolf form again and ventures out. He's going to patrol the west bank of the Blackwater Bayou. He's soon met with success, as he sees a small group of men in boats dragging the bayou. He settles down to watch and listen. The man called Turner is there. He doesn't look very happy. One of the people dragging the bayou reports to him that there is no sign of a body. Henri thinks to himself, the fools will never find any trace. Between the gators, catfish and crawfish, they will be lucky to find a finger. He focuses again on Turner, and all at once Turner is staring at him. Henri wonders if the man can see him from this distance. Surely not. Then Turner makes a gesture with his finger to his forehead. Henri is shocked as he realizes this man can sense his presence. This man bears watching. Yes, he thinks, I need to watch this man. Lou had run most of the day when the spirit of the Wahila had come over him. It had increased his strength, endurance and intelligence. Being a wolf, his senses were already very sharp. His senses told him his quarry was near. When he saw the great bear, he was awestruck by the sheer size. He had fought the white bears in the far north. He had even fought a bear that could become a man, whose size was great, but this creature was the size of a large hairy man that protects the forests. He saw where his brother had injured it, but now it showed little to no sign of the fight. He knew this was a fight he could not win, but maybe he could slow this beast down. The great bear sensed the wolf, larger than any wolf he had ever encountered, that walked on all four legs. But this didn't matter. He had a purpose. He hunted the wolf that walked on two legs, and that wolf he could kill. He would ignore this one unless he was foolish enough to bother him, and then he would kill it too and feed on its organs. So he paid it no mind and continued. The wolf was bearing his path now, and the bear roared his challenge. The wolf stood its ground. Part of the wolf's mind reached into his, telling him to abandon this venture, for it will end badly. To hunt this two-legged wolf would mean to be hunted by a man that knows no equal and will bring certain death. Go back north. The bear roars again in defiance. He would not submit to this wolf, and if a man came to kill him, that man would die too. He charges the Wahila. Lou moves out of the creature's way and levels a vicious bite onto his hind quarters. Lou had fought with the great two-legged wolves. He had fought the bear men. He had even fought the wolves that masqueraded in the bodies of men. He knew how to fight them. The bear circles, the attacks swiping with its massive claws. Lou again dodges and strikes from the rear. Both combatants dodge, bite, feint, and attack. Lou knows if he is too slow for even a second, he may not survive. The bear is relentless, unimaginable strength and speed that defies its size. The bear goes into a frenzy, and then the unthinkable happens, and Lou dodges to the left when he should have dodged right as the bear's claws strike home. Jim pushes his truck to its limits. 18 hours later, he pulls into the Martin farm. Mr. Martin meets him outside. "You okay, son? You aren't in trouble again, are you?" Jim smiles. "No, Mr. Martin, I'm fine. Is everything good around here?" With the pleasantries exchanged, Jim explains to the Martins that there may be some trouble coming, and that he is sorry for bringing it to his door. That some very bad men may want to cause them some trouble, because they knew Jim. Mr. Martin tells Jim that they can all wait. You need to eat and sleep more, and this trouble will keep for hours. The next day, Jim is refreshed and ready to help Mr. Martin with the chores around the farm. Mr. Martin asked Jim, "Where's that big wolf dog of yours?" He's up north with a friend of mine," Jim tells him. "He'll be home soon," then under his breath says, "I hope." Bill, Yuri, and the rest arrive that night and begin to make plans. It's a week till the moon is full, and it would be best to hit them before they are able to add to that of their strength. "We surprised them before," Bill says. "I don't think that will happen again. And Steve and I are no match for their combat training, much less when they become werewolves. The important question, though, is where's Lou? I've never seen you two apart." And Jim tells them he is helping Tony with the move south. The ideal plan would be to find these men before the moon. That way we can deal with them. They know of the Martin farm, so we can't leave these people unprotected, and we can't get the police or government involved. I have talked with Henri, and he believes that the government, or at least a shadow form of it, is involved. Then Jim asks Yuri, "Are you a combat proficient?" Yuri answers, "Alas, no. I can fire a gun, and know something about the explosives. Peter is Spetsnaz, as was Dmitri, and I wish he were with us now. I just wish there was a way to have them with us now. I just wish there was a way to drag them into Yellowstone. That's my turf, and we would be at the advantage," Jim interjects. Smith looks at the 3/4 moon. 6 more days, he curses. Wade sits quietly in the corner, still more afraid than anything about being a werewolf now. Smith strains against almost invisible tether. A true born can turn. Why can't I? He wills the change to happen. He feels his muscle enlarge as he is in the throngs of transformation. This can't be. He wasn't a true born. He can't change without the moon. Or can he? Clothes start to rip as his body takes on the characteristics of a wolf. His control he had been working on. That has to be it. He begins to laugh like a maniac. "I did it!" he screams as the other two from his pack rush in, staring in awe. Standing to his full height, he revels in the power as he howls, a howl that is cut short by the crippling pain in his legs and back as he doubles over from the intense pain in his abdomen. He now lays in a fetal position on the floor, in more pain than he ever has in his first transformation. He lays there human again, his body rejecting the transformation. He pulls himself to his feet, the 3 members of the pack looking on. "I did it! I changed before the moon! I can do this! I need to practice it, but I can do this! I will do this, even if the pain kills me! I am coming for you, Dehue!" he shouts. "And when you are out of the way, I will rule again!" he shouts. "You hear me, Dehue? We were never meant to be heroes!" Henri roams his property to see if these men are anywhere else, and he stalks up on the surveillance team watching his house. He thinks momentarily about killing them, but decides the better of it. Maybe there is another way. He finishes his loop around the property, besides the one by the bayou. This is the only one team watching the house. He heads back the way towards the house when he sees a curious sight. He passes the small lake and notices 3 swans. When did he acquire 3 swans? Nicole was there also, and she seems to be talking to one of them. She turns to face him, and he approaches. "Good afternoon, Lord Dehue," she says. "Were you checking out those men that are spying on the house?" She reaches into his mind to converse with him, since he cannot speak in wolf form. "Good afternoon, Nicole," he thinks, and yes. Also, where did I acquire swans? I don't seem to remember them. "I bought them, sir. They help me to relax. This one is Charlotte." The great dire wolf sniffs the swan, who eminently bites him on the top lip of his nose, and flees into the lake. Nicole laughs at this. "I am sorry, Henri. She can be a bit naughty at times." Henri thinks back. Brash bird. You need to remind her that swans were a delicacy in the French court in my younger days. Nicole's still laughing. "I will remind her, my lord. Now, what would you have me do to distract these men?" "I leave that to your own discretion. I just want to make sure I am not around or involved. Harsh or mild, sir. Also, your discretion." He thinks back as he heads back to his house. She calls after him. "I will wait until they can see you." Mr. Turner, we have the target in view. He seems to be sipping a drink on his veranda, not a care in the world. The surveillance team member's words freeze in his mouth as he notices the largest cottonmouth he has ever seen, coiled at his feet. "Charlie," he manages to say. "Snake!" he yells as the viper strikes his leg. It's a heavy bite, and the venom works fast. They barely make it back to the rest of the team, and they call for a medivac, but it's too late. "Cottonmouths are nasty snakes," Turner says, "and it's very unusual this time of year. I think someone does not want us to watch this place." Lou has managed to keep ahead of the bear, but barely. If it had not been for a glancing blow, or he was not as powerful as he was, his back would be broken. The wound the claws left was bad, but he wasn't given up yet. The bear was following. He had to be smart if he was to escape. He knew what to do. He just needed to find a place to do it, and now he had. As he reached the edge of a ravine, he let out a mournful howl. The bear was still in pursuit as Lou stood on the edge of the ravine, cornered with no way out. The bear approached. He knew the wolf was trapped, and he didn't hesitate, charging straight at him. Lou waited till the last possible second and charged the bear, passing right through him as mist would. The bear falls down the ravine, and Lou knows the fall will not kill him, but it will be greatly slowed down. Lou starts off on a dead run back to Tony's pack. Being the Wahila does have its advantages. Smith works at his changes harder than he's ever worked on anything before. The change comes at night easily now, though with excruciating pain. The moonlight transformations hurt, but not this bad. He wondered how much pain the Hugh went through. The moon would be full the day after tomorrow. He must attack tomorrow night to achieve complete surprise. He wanted so bad to see the look on Hugh's face when he sees he too can change any time he wants. He was working on the daylight changes now, and this was the hardest of all. The only thing he had managed was soiling himself, straining so hard to make the change. It will come. He may not be pure blood, but he would be just as powerful. The rest of his pack had no luck changing. His best plan would be to take the others out tomorrow night, before Hugh could return. He didn't think that would be too hard given the surprise at him changing without the full moon. His pack members had been following the men around the town, and there was still no sign of Hugh. But Smith knew he was out there somewhere. He was most likely hiding in the woods with that mongrel dog of his. Yes, tomorrow night would tell the story. Jim had kept in contact with his friends from the Martin farm. He sensed something was up and that something was wrong. He was still concerned about Lou, but he had not sensed anything of it happened to his brother. His mind also went on when did life become so complicated? He felt almost like he was dealing with intrigue of the French court before the revolution. He had to relax and calm his nerves. The moon would be full in 2 days, and that would be when Smith and his pack would attack. I need to know where they are and where they will come from. Jim drives to Bosman. He knows what he is planning is dangerous. He calls Bill, telling him his plan. A few miles from the motel that Bill and the rest of the group are staying, Jim parks, takes his bag and enters the small forested area. He knows he must do this fast, so he wills the transformation faster. Pure blood can change faster if he desires it, though the pain is terrible. Normally 15 minutes could be done in 2, but the difference is the pain. Jim wills the change into being, and fast. Muscles contort, bones relocate. He screams, but within 2 minutes, he's a full-grown dire wolf. He loops back into the motel and starts to sniff around, being very careful not to be seen. It takes most of an hour, but he finds the man watching his friends. He wears a tactical clothing, but he can't mask his smell. He's a lesser. Jim watches the man for a bit. I could kill him now, he thinks to himself. Sends Smith a message, dripping in blood. No, I need to find Smith. He's the one I need to kill. Another 2 hours pass, and finally, Jim is rewarded. A black SUV pulls up, another lesser gets out, and the one that's been on the watch leaves. Changing of the guard, Jim thinks to himself. I could kill this one, he will not be missed. For a few hours, but changes his mind. He wants to find Smith before he loses his scent. He's off track in the SUV. He doesn't have very far to go. A couple of miles down the road, a very nice hotel. He follows the scent. A room in the back. How convenient. He smells 3 inside. He considers breaking the door down and killing them all. It shouldn't be much of a problem, except for the scent. 2 men that are also wolves, but the third, already a wolf. There is no full moon tonight. How is this possible? Besides my cousin and I, there are no purebloods left. The scent isn't familiar. Henri had told him of genetically enhanced men that resembled a wolf. Is this one of them? Could they turn at will like a pureblood? Henri said that while fighting him, he injected something into his leg and became 10 times as strong enough Henri couldn't handle him in direwolf form. He had to assume his hunting form to defeat him. Jim contemplated assuming his true form, his hunting form. But he didn't want to attract any attention. Bosman wasn't exactly a small town. He was surprised he hadn't been seen yet. He returns to his truck and returns to the Martin house, calling Bill on the way. The plan is to get everyone out of the Martin house and send the old couple on a vacation for a few days. Jim was sure they had scoped out the farm as well as the surrounding area. There was more here than less to deal with. He didn't want to assume his hunting form in front of Yuri and Peter. This would be tricky. I would have to draw them off into the forest to fight. With that, I might stand a good chance against the 4 lessers. The wild card was Smith. Was he some type of enhanced lesser? He wasn't a pureblood. He was one of Michelle's minions, but Jim knew he smelled the wolf, not the man, in that room. Did they experiment on him? Give him the ability to change at will? How strong would he be? Can I handle him? Jim's mind floods with questions, but no matter what, he was sure the answers, for good or bad, would be answered tomorrow night when the moon rose full. Jim spent the rest of the day getting ready, explaining to Peter how to kill a werewolf. And Peter was going to use armor-piercing rounds for both his AK-74M and the Dragunov. This would give him an edge, or Jim hoped. Bill and Steve both used a 308 with some of Jim's exploding rounds, and Jim tells the group that they will most likely attack from the forested area. These are not dogmen, these are werewolves, and they are twice as powerful as the other. Also, their bite, if they don't kill you, can turn you like them, so don't get bit. Bill looks at Jim intently. What are you going to do, son? Smith will know I am the real threat. Nothing personal, guys. I will try to draw them into the forest, try to pick them off one at a time. Hopefully you will get several shots off and hopefully thin them out. I just wish Lou was here. Yuri asked the next question. Jim, what can you do against this beast? I have seen you in an exceptionally strong warrior, but against such monsters, what can a single man do? Bill and Steve look to Jim to see how he will answer. Before Jim can say anything, Peter, who had been watching out the window, yells, "Headlights! Gentlemen, we have company." The dark SUV pulls up to the house and 2 men exit wearing tactical gear and assault weapons. The man driving the vehicle stays behind the wheel, then out of the back steps a full-grown, 7-foot-tall, bona fide nightmare. The creature lets out a long, piercing howl. "You in the house," he growls. "Come out now, and perhaps I'll allow you to live. Of course, you will serve me. Come join me, and no freedom, refuse, and no death. The only person dying here today is you, Lesser. But before you do, you will tell me how you can transform without the full moon," Jim shouts as he steps out onto the porch. "You could also tell me who it is you work for. Who winds up the toy werewolf?" Smith looks shocked. "You were supposed to be in the north." "I was warned of your threat to my friends. Your own arrogance is your undoing. You sought to add my friends to your pack, and that's why you came before the full moon. So, in case you couldn't control the bloodlust of your mongrel pack, you didn't plan on me being here? Knowing a lesser like you would have no chance against a pureblood, even with your enhancements. I'm going to show you how easy you could die, lesser. The words that come out of Jim's mouth drips with pure hatred against the made monstrosity, and in one fluid motion, he raises his weapon to his shoulder and fires. The copper-tipped exploding round impacts the werewolf in the chest and explodes. The two untransformed werewolves return fire, knowing until tomorrow night that's all they can do. A round catches Jim in the leg as he dives for the cover, trying to get another shot at Smith, who seems to have recovered from the round. The werewolf roars out a challenge. "Meet me in the woods if you dare, Hugh." And with this, he runs into the forested area, almost maniacally laughing. "Catch me if you think you can." The firefight continues, but not for long, as Peter opens up on the two men spraying death from his AK-74M. And the fight is over. Wade falls out of the SUV on his knees, begging for his life. Jim tells the others to tie up Wade and even secure the bodies of the other two as he follows Smith into the forest. And Jim thinks to himself, the forest of fear, for he truly doesn't know what to expect. He remembers Henri said he couldn't defeat the man-made monster at the house in wolf form. He had to assume his hunting form. "I have no witch to assist me, cousin, so maybe I had better be more prepared." Jim lays down his rifle and disrobes. He knows he must do this as fast as he can. God, I wish Lou were here to watch my back. He wills the change to start. He must move faster. Smith could be anywhere ready to jump on him, and he must maintain his mind in the process. Mere moments later, paired with almost crippling pain, Jim Johnson is gone, and in his place stands a 10-foot frame of James DeHugh's alter ego. He thinks now, let the hunt begin. He moves through the forest effortlessly, and for over a century he had designed himself this pleasure, until last year when forces caused him to assume this form. He was afraid that if he took this form, the madness would take him. Last year at the battle in the manor, and his cousin Henri told him that the cure for the madness was purpose. And right now, he had a purpose, and that purpose was to find this mangy cur and take its head, and then find out who was doing this and put a stop to them once and for all. His howl is long and fierce, and it lets the forest know its lord is hunting. Smith had smelled that Jim had taken on the true form, and he was eager for the confrontation. In his arrogance, he truly believed he was Jim's equal, if not superior. The facility had given him some type of injections that had increased his strength and agility, but it was by his own force of will that he caused the ability to transform any time he wanted to. He was a pureblood now, just like DeHugh, and soon he would be the only one left. Smith's arrogance was his greatest weakness. He stalked Jim through the forest until he was in position. He thought to himself, purebred or not, he would kill DeHugh in one swift move. He leapt to kill, but decades of living in the world had Jim's senses as sharp as a razor. He quickly turns and catches Smith in mid-leap and throws him across the clearing, and the battle is on. Tooth and claw rip into each other, and Jim is considerably larger, but their strength and agility seem to be matched. Smith had been enhanced by his captures, almost to Jim's level. Massive blow after massive blow land, claws tear and teeth rip. Smith almost given as good as he gets, but Jim is taking a toll, larger and stronger. Plus, being born to do this, we're more than a match for this lesser werewolf, who was losing ground quickly. Jim had been injured though, a large gash in his hip that not only had torn the flesh but cracked a bone, and Jim knew he would heal, but he had to end this. He had to put Smith down like the rabid dog he was. Smith breaks free from the fight and is on a dead run, heads for Jim's friends. Jim easily catches him, spinning him around and plants a clawed fist deep into the lesser's guts. Smith drops, and the light in his eyes start to fade. He knows he's beaten. Suddenly, thunder echoes through the forest, and the pain in Jim's hip reaches a new level as he buckles to the ground. Bill grabs a rifle from Peter, who looks at him with confusion. He watches both combatants disappear back into the forest. The round was armor-piercing, and it just happened to hit Jim in a weak spot. Smith had raced back into the dark forest. Jim leaped after him, visibly injured. Jim chases Smith through the forest for what seems like hours. Jim's vision is swimming. He knows that this wound by itself would not kill him, but he is slowed and getting slower. He knew that the outcome of another straight-up fight would be questionable, but still he pursued. He had to catch him. He had to kill him. He knew that very carnage he would reap in the aftermath would be considerable. He wouldn't allow that to happen. Jim moves along the river, the ravine of at least 100 feet deep above the river. He knew his quarry wasn't far now, and Jim manages to yell out, "Stop hiding and face me!" Jim's wound had at least closed, but he had lost a lot of blood. He knew he needed to rest. It was the only way he would fully regenerate. He sniffed the air. He could smell the other werewolf, but was unsure of the distance. And then it happened. From behind Smith, he attacks, bowling Jim over. The lesser doesn't regenerate as fast. He was still covered in blood, but he was ignoring the wounds. Again, tooth and claw clash as the two werewolves battle for life and death. Jim is still faint. Even during the fight, his mind drifts in and out. He's running on pure instinct. He's tired and injured, and had been winning until he was shot. Who shot him, and why? His moment of clarity slips, and the fog returns. Before he can react, Smith lands a solid blow to Jim's muscle, sending him reeling. His mind clears. It's only been a few seconds, but the damage is done. Smith holds Jim over the ravine. "Now that you die." And Jim says, "Before you kill me, tell me how, lesser. How can you change when the moon isn't full?" And Smith says, "I see no harm in telling you. When I fled your house, I was captured, experimented on, forces to seek new levels to my power. I worked, I sweated, I strained to make myself better than you. I may not be able to hold the form in daylight, but the night, any night, now belongs to me." Jim, feeling his mind completely clear, says, "So you can't hold the form in the daylight, huh? Then you are beaten, and you don't even realize it." "Why?" Smith growls. "Because I know something you don't. You're about to die, and you still feel superior? Okay, I'll bite. What do you know?" If a werewolf can smile, Jim says, grinning. It's morning. Smith then looks to the sky to see the sun breaking through the trees. His body is suddenly racked with pain as the transformation hits him. Jim kicks him backwards as he is forced to return to his human form. And now it's Jim's turn as he picks the now human Smith up. Jim knows he can let this man live, for he will change again tonight and start this all over again. Jim wants to question him to find out about this facility and what or who they were. He knows Smith will not talk, and Jim ends his life with one swipe to the heart. Jim walks out of the forest a couple of hours later. He had retrieved his clothes and rifle, and he finds his friends at the farmhouse. 2 of the other werewolves from Smith's pack are also dead. Only Wade is still alive, begging for his life. Bill sees Jim and rushes, throwing his arms around him in a bear hug. "Son, I was worried." And Jim says, "For a while I was, especially after being shot. Who the hell shot me?" Bill tells him it was Peter. He thought you were a monster. Jim admits, "I was, but at least I kept control. And the one called Smith is dead." And Jim says, "Bill, I have a mission, and I don't want you, Steve, or the 2 other Russians involved. I need to retrieve Lou and head back down to Louisiana, so Henri and I can finish this once and for all." Bill says, "I can't speak for the Russian or Steve, but I'm going with you. And that's all there is to it. The more eminent problem now, though, is Wade. Is he a werewolf? And will he turn tonight?" They walk to where Peter is guarding a man who is still begging for his life. Even in human form, Jim's senses are very acute. He smells the man, shaking his head. Yes, it will turn tonight. Saying this, Jim just turns and walks away. The reports are read. Armed intruders tried to break into the Martin household, but were stopped by a US Deputy Marshal that was visiting the Martin family. The story was plausible, due to the fact that Wade was a known criminal, and the other two that guarded Smith were complete ghosts, no identification. Smith's body was never recovered, and it had been left in a forest. If it was ever found, it would be easily dismissed as an animal attack. Bill, Yuri, and the others head to Yellowstone to wait for Jim, who heads north to find Tony and Lou. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, at the Hugh estate, Henri receives an unwelcome visitor. Turner tells him that they were unable to find any sign of their missing man, and they will be leaving now. Nicole, who had been listening behind the door, tells Henri he is lying. He did not find the body, but he did find the syringe that you were not able to find. He isn't leaving. He will continue to watch you. Henri just shakes his head. Let him watch. A Black Hawk circles the forest north of Yellowstone. A 4-man team rappels to the forest floor. They work fast to recover a mutilated body. Wow, wow, wow. Absolutely awesome stuff there, Jim. Jim Lawrence, fantastic author. Definitely one of my favourite authors on the channel here. Thank you so much, brother, for all of your support, your dedication, your input to the show, your kind emails back and forth, your support and guidance and friendship. Really does mean the world to me. Guys and girls, you know the drill by now. Bit of a silly question. It's a Jim Lawrence story, but please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments. Please do like and share. Really does help with the channel and our community further. And of course, don't forget to hashtag TeamFEAR. Slowly getting things rolled out onto all platforms such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, etc. I'll start uploading some links to that on the community tab, so make sure you got your notification bell touched on. All notifications to stay up to date with myself. And above all, guys, I hope you have a lovely weekend. And remember, be safe, not sorry.